All right, and welcome to another guest here at Stay Tuned with Troy and Howie. And she's a bit of a local singer, as we were just discussing earlier. She's from the same county as us, but now lives, guess what? Yeah, exactly. Guess what? In Nashville, like every one of our other guests that we have on here. And but we're speaking with Olivia Farabaugh. So welcome, Olivia.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited. This is gonna be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is gonna be a great time. Really appreciate having you on. Let me get over your social media stuff here real quick before we kind of dig into things. You can find her on Facebook, obviously, by searching her name. Her Instagram is Olivia Farabaugh Official. TikTok is Olivia Farabaugh. You can find her on Twitter, Farabaugh Music, and then her website, which will take you around to all these other things in a roundabout way, is oliviafarabaugh.com. So thanks again, Olivia. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for sharing those.
Sure.
Absolutely.
First of all, are you sitting inside your tiny house?
I am.
Tell me, you got to tell me more about this.
Welcome to our home.
Reach both ends of the wall. That's what
right. I can touch both sides.
What is this? What is this all about? Yeah, I want to hear more about it.
So we actually just put up a tiny house walkthrough little tour. So if you guys want to like get a full blown tour, you can check it out. It's on YouTube. My husband and I have a lot of fun making those videos. So, but yeah, so the idea of this actually came from the chronic inflammatory response syndrome. I hope I'm still here.
You're still there.
You're still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still there.
Let me make sure I plug my phone in. It gave me a 10%.
Oh no.
That would not be good. So the idea and the reasoning behind the tiny house came from my diagnosis with chronic inflammatory response syndrome that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later too.
Yeah,
but
sure.
So it made it really difficult with being so sensitive to my environment to find a place that was free of any water damage and potential mold exposure. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to navigate. And a lot of the newer places that they're building are incredibly beautiful, but they're very expensive. So
Sure.
We figured like the best way that we could control the environment that I'm in and to be the most affordable was to build a tiny house.
Mm-hmm.
So we're renting land from this super nice farmer right outside of Nashville, and that's where we're at.
That is awesome. So do you have to get like a well set up, or how, like what's all involved in that? Like sewer, well,
yeah. So we actually really lucked out because these guys, this farmer, he had this idea already to put like a spot for people to either come and camp or whatever it may be. He's like, we have this spot like right along the field and it wasn't getting any use. So we figured that they would. So it was totally a God thing because we were searching for land forever. Like we were trying to buy land and like all the code restrictions were holding us back. And it just like popped up on Instagram and it said, rent your land on Hip Camp. I'm like, what? The amount of times I've Googled like renting land, buying land, like nothing came up. So we ended up getting in contact with this guy and he said, hey, we're putting 2 sites on this farm right down the road and they're opening up in May. And it was perfect. We already had a trip planned in May. Like it was the most incredible situation. And it's everything we could have imagined and asked for. Because we were like, if we could choose, it would be like next to farm and maybe there'd be some wildlife and like the first night we were here, we opened up the window and there was a big buck right outside our window. And we're like,
wow.
What the heck?
That is
so
awesome.
Long story long, they already had it all done. So we didn't have to worry about that, thank God.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're married, and is your husband from this central Pennsylvania area or?
Yes. Yeah. He's from the York area. He's from Dover is his hometown.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
So funny story. Tinder.
Oh, wow.
So I got on Tinder and I said I was going on a date with this guy I met on there and I was working at the salon. I was a hairstylist at the time. And all the girls were like, Olivia, do not go on that date. That has such a bad reputation. You can't do it. And so I texted him. I'm like, listen, I didn't realize the reputation that this had. Like, that's not what I'm here for. And obviously it worked out. Everything was good. But I always hesitate when I say that because people are like, you were on Tinder.
Right.
What?
Oh,
well, I don't know that when Tinder started, it was originally that way, but somehow or another, it kind of went down the wrong path there.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, pretty much any
went down that road.
Yeah, pretty much any social media hookup site can go bad or good, I guess you can say.
So I guess this would be a good time to step into this since you mentioned it, the chronic inflammatory response syndrome. That's new to me. So kind of give us a little background and what is this and kind of what triggers it and what happens when you have, an episode, I guess.
Yeah. I appreciate you asking about it and bringing it up because it's definitely something that I really feel a pull to raise awareness for because it's still really not known in the medical community, let alone like to the public. So unfortunately, I moved into a apartment that was like had very high levels of black mold that we didn't know about for a long time until my health started to, I guess, deteriorate in a way. So I was getting strep throat all the time and antibiotics would fail. So I got tonsillectomy and then it went into my sinuses and I had sinus surgery. I was like on a PICC line for antibiotics, got blood clots, like all these weird things that didn't make any sense. And all the doctors, I used to get so annoyed because they're like, you're young and healthy. We don't really know why this is happening. And I'm like, well, obviously like something's going on. So
right.
They just kind of like raised their hand. They're like, I don't know what to do for you now, Right. So we ended up, my mom actually, shout out Joan, Mama Joan, she figured out, she's like, Olivia, once you moved into that house is when you got sick. Like that's when this whole thing started. So we got an air quality test done and that's when it came back that it was like 10 different types of mold and the highest one was this black mold. And sure enough, we had, my dad and my now husband went through and looked in the attic and it was a crawl space attic. It was so creepy. So we always joked about like, oh, don't go up there because there's like a dead body. Like, so we just never went up, but here, that's where it was. So the whole attic was just covered. And so we had this really great guy. The company actually, they separated into two entities, but it was called Country Boy Restoration. And he was very informative and he was great. But he said, you're probably gonna have to throw away a lot of your stuff. And unfortunately we did because we started like lifting up like our bed, like the frame had mold spores, like mold growing on the bottom.
Oh my gosh.
It was, and like I was there for 2 years. And so within that 2-year period is when that started. And like, it was just so disturbing. So anyway, my husband, he was there, I don't know how long, maybe he was there for like a year, but he was fine. He was totally fine. So they thought, whenever you're out of the environment, you're going to be fine. You're going to get better. And I didn't. I kept staying with the same symptoms. And the best way that I can describe it is kind of like the feeling of like when you're starting to get sick, like the day before you get the flu full bore, like you're really like you're kind of throbbing and lethargic and your brain's just not like 100% with it. And so it's kind of just that's how it was for me. Now, a lot of people, it comes out in different ways, but so anyway, I wasn't getting better. And we finally found this doctor who specialized in mold. So we're like, perfect, So I was properly diagnosed with chronic inflammatory response syndrome, CIRS or CIRS for short. And so 24% of people have this gene that lays dormant in their bodies and they could go their whole lives without knowing. But if they encounter this perfect storm of exposure, it will activate this gene and then their body's not able to process out toxins as it normally would. So normally it will just bind in your gut and then get discarded. But this now it recirculates, and then it causes your immune system to just like send off all these inflammatory markers and kind of attack itself in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I was at. Now I've been really blessed with finding a doctor who was able to treat it properly. And I'm in like the last step of the treatment process, but it's something now I'm going to have to monitor, my whole life, like what buildings I go into. And I've noticed now that I'm starting to feel better, if I go into a building, even like family members' houses, if we know that they've had, issues with water damage or something, I've been in there for an hour and then I start feeling the symptoms come on of the throbbing and the headache.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been really interesting to navigate. But, thank God for technology too, because, there's this mask I can wear that can help. And also an ionizer that I can wear around my neck that can help just clean the air around me a little bit better.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's actually what I wear on stage. Like, I don't know if you ever see like a Facebook Live or a video, but like it's this little like rectangle. It's not a cute looking necklace, but I'm like, I'll work it. It's fine.
I was gonna say, I didn't notice it. Actually, I'm looking at it now, but it actually does look like a necklace.
Yeah, it does. I was like, man, I wish they put like rhinestones on it or something.
Well,
Sure.
Can't you do something to spice it up a little?
Yeah, I get those little bling kits and just put stickers or something, like little rhinestone stickers.
What were they called? Bedazzled or something?
Oh, there you go.
Bedazzle it.
So with having CIRS, how does that affect you in regards to like COVID? And is your immune system compromised as a result of this?
Yeah, so that was the big thing, especially. So I got diagnosed with this. It started in 2016 when I moved into the house, but I didn't get diagnosed until November of 2020. So it was like right in the midst of pandemic. Like, so my husband is actually an ICU nurse. So he is very educated in the whole medical side of things, which he helped translate a lot for me, which was great.
Okay.
But he was seeing how people's bodies were reacting to COVID. And one of the big things, which I'm sure everybody knows now, is like the cytokine storm. I don't think I'm saying that right, but all the inflammatory markers, that's what kind of like attacks the lungs. And so my levels, like once I got the right blood test done, showed that those levels were really like elevated already. So that explains why I got the blood clot before that no one knew about. And so we were really concerned in the beginning before I was in treatment and on this kind of path to healing. So now I've gotten my levels taken again. And, I'm grateful that those levels have gone down. So we're hoping that if I do get it, that my body's now going to react as just someone like normally would. But they were actually doing some research with, why some people are so sick and others are barely affected. They were looking at like the genes associated with CIRS to see if that could be what really brought it on real bad for people. So I'm anxious to see where where that research kind of goes.
Yeah, I said that too. And I mean, Howie, you and I even talked about this because we started this podcast right around the beginning of the pandemic as well. And some of our early conversations were about that. And one of the things I remember saying to you, Howie, was it's just so weird with the COVID that like some people have it, don't even know they have it, or it's perfectly fine. Some people have it and it's sometimes fatal at this point, and it's like, there's gotta be something in those genes or something in the body that just reacts to it totally different. And it has to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that would make so much sense. Like it would kind of give a little bit of reasoning behind it, I guess.
I know there is no rhyme or reason, because there are people that literally barricade themselves inside their home and still end up getting it. And me personally, I work in an environment where I'm in the ICUs a lot, and throughout other hospitals and such. And I haven't even, I should probably find some wood to knock on, but I haven't got anything close to what would be considered COVID. Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't.
And it's like And you might be one of them lucky people, Howie, where you get COVID, but you don't even know you had it. You had no symptoms. You were perfectly fine. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just a really crazy thing. So with the CIRS, obviously you didn't find about this till later in life, but as you were growing up and as you were a child, did you have a lot of episodes where you were sick a lot growing up and stuff? Or
no, actually, and it's funny, like as we were going through, I mean, I called all my doctors, like childhood doctors. I had this whole like medical, because we wanted to know that, like, was there a period in time where I had this happen before? And I literally have like a timeline of my entire health history from when I was a child to now. And it's never been like this. And, you know, my childhood home, my parents actually got tested because they wanted to make sure that that was a safe space for me. And it was fine. Like there was some traces of a little bit that they had just kind of remediated just to be safe, but it really wasn't any sort of high dangerous level of anything. So that's what we thought was interesting. And as we started educating ourselves more on CIRS, sometimes what it takes is the perfect storm of exposure. Like some people could be exposed to these toxins, but their body's doing fine. But sometimes it takes a trigger, like a traumatic event or a car accident or something where it kind of takes a blow to your immune system. And then for some reason that gives this gene enough to activate and causes havoc, which I know there's so many better people that can explain this better, but that's to my understanding kind of what can happen.
Yeah, I get it. It's almost like the immune system kind of went to help fight something else. So they're not on guard per se to block this other stuff coming in, and all of a sudden it can sneak in. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's probably, that makes so much sense too. And we looked back and I got into a car accident like a month after moving into that house. So we're like,
oh wow.
That was probably
left
it.
and right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and as a result of CIRS or being diagnosed and knowing it, it looks like you wrote a song kind of addressing it. And tell us what that's about. I guess it's called Body Will Break.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks so much for bringing that up. This song, like I wanted to write something for so long about the issues that I was having with my health. Because for a while I wasn't being super open about it because I didn't really know what was going on. Like I just kind of thought I was a normal person getting sick, like just getting sick a lot. Like, so I wasn't really being upfront. And so I struggled a lot with like how I wanted to write a song about it. And it just kind of hit me that it shouldn't necessarily be about the CIRS, like necessarily, and about my physical struggles, but more the relationship between my mind and body that's come from these issues. And because for so long, I mean, I still struggle with like whenever I'd have a flare up or a bad day, I'm like, gosh darn it, I thought we were past this. Like I still feel that like frustration.
Oh yeah.
And so, but for a while that was something I was like working on like all the time. And I wrote this song, Body Will Break. And after releasing it, and even before, I was playing it to some of my family, and it was really interesting to hear how it related to other people in different ways. And like my sister, it was really cool because she just had a baby not too long after I wrote this song. Okay. And to her, it was kind of re-accepting her body and how it's changed and loving it for everything it is, in the way of, I mean, her body went through this incredible miracle of bearing a child. And so it was just really cool, like how it affects people in different ways.
Yeah.
Howie, you don't know anything about different interpretations of songs, do you?
No, we just had
Jeremy Rowe
on who actually has written, has sung a song that's top 15 in iTunes charts, and
he wrote with Taylor Marie Wagner.
And by the way, Taylor Marie Wagner co-wrote it. And but anyway, I was telling him about this interpretation of the song that he was singing, and I'm like, isn't that what you meant by this song? And he looked at me and was like, no, I didn't mean I said, well, you know what, you need to listen to it because and then I played it while we were talking to him, and as he's listening to it, he's like, oh my gosh, I can now hear it, you know.
That is so cool.
Because it's called Jeep Girl, and he was like trying to, you know, and I said, this song isn't about a girl, is it? It's about a Jeep. And then he goes, no, it's actually about a girl. And I'm like, no, it's not. So, but that's interesting though. Like in your case, even like, you know, you're writing a song about CIRS. So I'm assuming you don't specifically mention CIRS in the song.
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted it to be like really relatable to, you know, anyone who's listening. And I think it's so cool that you said that though, because I feel like that's the beauty of music, really.
Yep.
Like when you write a song, you know, you can mean it one way of like, so, and then someone take it totally different, but it was meaningful to exactly what they needed at that exact time. And I think that's the coolest thing about music.
Yeah. And I think, and Howie, you brought this up at one point too, like it always seems to happen so much when there's like a heartbreak or a loss involved, because it seems like every song that comes on the radio, when it's a slow song or a sad song, it always relates to you somehow. Like,
I was gonna say, this is so about me.
So I guess let's kind of jump back a little bit and let me kind of go over your social media here again real quick. It's Olivia Farabaugh official on Instagram, Olivia Farabaugh on TikTok. Obviously, you can find her on YouTube and Facebook by just searching her name. And then on Twitter, it's Farabaugh Music. And her website is oliviafarabaugh.com. So you grew up in Palmyra. Is that where you were born and raised pretty much your whole life? And
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm a Palmyra.
Yeah.
Palmyra,
Pennsylvania, outside of Hershey.
Yep. The neighbor of Hershey.
Go Cougars.
So when did music like come into your life? Like how did that all kind of get started for you?
Yeah, I think music has always been just a part of me, but the main things I can remember, I mean, I grew up singing in the church choir. And so that was, at that point, honestly, I didn't love singing. Like, I don't know, I was just like there because it was like the fun thing to do, and like you got to meet a lot of people. But like I liked it, you know, but it wasn't something at that point I was like, that's what I want to do. But whenever I picked up the guitar, that's when I was like, this music thing's really cool, you know.
That's awesome.
I was in 4th grade. It was the summer going into 4th grade is when I picked up the guitar, and songwriting just kind of came with it. And the songs have gotten a lot better since then, thank God. But
where can we find those 4-year-old songs?
No, 4th grade. 4th grade.
4th grade. I'm sorry.
I hope they never surface. My mom probably has them hidden somewhere, and she's just waiting to whip them out.
If you're listening out there, Mom, my email is.
So
that's awesome.
The guitar thing, like, was it just kind of something you always wanted to try, and then finally asked the parents to go ahead and see if you could do it, or did somebody kind of let you play around on it? And you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to learn more about it. How did the guitar thing start for you?
Yeah, so when I was really little, I tried to play the piano, and that didn't really work out because it was too structured. I didn't want to learn theory. I just wanted to play. And so I kind of was like not into that. And I knew I wanted to maybe play an instrument because I liked the idea of it, you know. But I was at my cousin's house, and she had a guitar just sitting in her room behind her door. And so I just picked it up and sat on her bed, and I was like, I want to figure out how to do this. Like, this seems fun. You know, my uncle, he had came home and was playing it. I'm like, this could be cool. So I started messing around with theirs a little bit. And I said to my parents, I really want a guitar. I want to do this. And so they finally, for my birthday, they got me a guitar, and they have a video of it. I was such a little drama queen. I'm crying. I'm like, yes. Like, I was so excited.
So to this day, that's probably your still favorite gift ever, huh?
Oh yeah. Like that was the most life-changing gift that I ever could have gotten. And I didn't even realize that at the time, you know?
Oh, that is so cool. That's a cool thing.
I also heard that you had an internship with one of the local radio stations out here. Was it 106.7?
Yes, that's with Puff and Steph, Steph's an incredible, I'm so glad Puff brought us together. It was awesome.
Okay, yeah, because Troy and I both also worked local radio here. Not the same station, but we were at WQIC and
100.1.
100, yeah, and also WLBR here in Lebanon.
No way.
Yeah, I worked there for
That's so
18 years.
cool.
Troy worked there for a few years, and
No way.
that's how we met.
I was gonna say, is that what brought you guys together?
Yeah. We wanted to start. We were trying to get the ownership to have us have our own little show there at one point, and they're such a conservative station, it didn't stand a chance. But we at least went to them and asked them about it,
right?
And it never panned out. And about 18 years later or so, we decided to start a podcast. So.
Yeah, it's like, let's give this a shot, see what happens.
Well, you know what? Podcasts are such a big thing right now too, and it's radio is changing for sure, but podcasts, like, you can do what you want. It's your show and create it the way that you want to.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper than owning your own radio station, that's for sure.
That's true.
So as you're growing up, when do you start getting into playing shows and stuff? Like, when did that all start?
Yeah, so the first time I ever played a show was at 3J's Coffee Shop. So Palmyra, shout out to them. They had like their open mic nights, and so I went. That was the first time I really played in front of anybody. And then, like I said before, I was a hairstylist at a salon. I think I mentioned that before, but if I didn't, I was a hairstylist at a salon at U-Turn. Shout out to U-Turn. And one of the coworkers, I'm shouting out to everyone. One of the coworkers, the stylist there, he knew the owner of Babes in Palmyra. The bar. So at that point, I was, I think, 18. I was just out of high school. I never played like my own gig, especially at a bar. Like, I've never done that. And I remember, like, I think I just played for tips, maybe. I mean, maybe they paid me like $50. I can't totally remember, but I just remember that the stylist at the salon, he took my tip jar and he passed it around to the whole bar. And I came home and I looked at my tip jar and I like counted the money, and I'm like thinking, I can make money doing this. I'm like, this was so much fun. Like, I was not working. I was just playing the songs that I play in my bedroom, just to people. Like, how cool. And that's when, like, I was like, I got to do this. So I took little business cards and like a little demo CD, and I went up and down Chocolate Avenue in Hershey, just handed my CD out. And, I just had a fire under me at that point. I'm like, this is cool.
So we're about what year here now when this takes place?
Yeah. So that was it was probably 2013 or 14. Probably 13, because I think it was the summer I graduated, the summer after I graduated.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. So then how far down the road? I seen that you, well, we can jump into it right now. You were on season 10 of The Voice. So what year was that? So
I was 20. So I guess that would have been 2015-ish. Yeah, 2015. I think that would have been 2015, because then I moved out and moved into that house in 2016. So yes, that was such a cool experience. And like,
let's hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, and who prompted who, or did you decide for yourself, like, you know what, I'm going to try for this?
Yeah, I actually tried a couple times. I tried 2 times and I didn't make it past the open calls. Okay. And I got an email. I had my music on Reverb Nation for a while, and it was actually my first EP called Prisoner of War, and I sound like a very little version of me, but I think it's still out in the universe.
I think it is. I think I saw it when I was looking on Spotify and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's really funny to like listen to that one and then listen to my latest one, Your Heart of Gold, and like just compare. It's really cool to see the growth, more or less.
Sure.
They've heard the Prisoner of War EP, and they were like, hey, they sent me an email. I was like, hey, we'd love to invite you to a private audition. And I thought it was a scam. I was like, I'm like, I didn't even answer like for a day. And then I just mentioned it to my mom. I was like, yeah, I got this email. I said, I'm pretty sure it's a scam. I don't know. And she was like, why don't you just email them back? Like, if it's a scam, then you'll figure it out later,
Yeah.
Like, okay. So I emailed them, and I'm glad I did, because it sure enough was legit. And the first private audition was in Times Square of New York. It was it was like right off of Times Square, and it was this unmarked door, like this, just like it was cut out of like the wall. There wasn't even a door. You go back this hallway, and then the door was it. My dad was there with me. He's like, "You are not going in there." So, he like parked the car, and he was like, "I'm going in with you." So we went. I'm so glad you know, because like it was freaky until you got in, and then you saw like, okay, the voice like tags, like, okay,
Yeah, but that had to be
You know.
scary because you're like, this doesn't seem legit to me.
yeah, like all of a sudden I'm like, it is a scam. I knew
Yeah.
it.
Oh wow! So you
She's
go
like,
through
"No,
the
we get it in
doors.
Times Square." What?
So when you get in there, they just kind of have like screeners and such, like that kind of listen to you. And I mean, what's that process like?
Yeah, so I stood in a line just of a bunch of different artists then, and you go in and you sing 3 different songs. And because it was a private audition, I was able to have my guitar with me, which was really cool.
Okay.
And I had to sing one song with just a backing track. So I can't even remember what song. I think I did like a Meghan Trainor song, and like it was like it was so fun. But so I went in, I did those, and then you then could go to the next level, I guess. So if they liked that, what they heard, then you went for a casting interview, and then they pretty much asked you every single thing about your life. So from there, they said, okay, we'll let you know if we want to have a call back and we want to hear you again. So I was really fortunate. They had called me, and then they actually flew you out to LA for 3 days.
Oh, cool.
And
Nice.
so, yeah, it was so cool. And like, I mean, I'd never been to California, and that's still this experience was the only time I've been there, but you don't really get to experience it too much because you're sequestered in a hotel and you're not allowed to leave. So
you're probably nervous as anything too, because you're like, okay, how am I going to prepare for this? And what am I going to do?
So true. And that was the first time like I ever flew with my guitar, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm like, what am I getting myself into? And like, honestly, at that point, I was only playing out for like 2 years. Like I've been playing and writing for a while, but the performance aspect. So I walk in there with all these like absolutely incredible artists, and I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And so I ended up getting through the executive callbacks, and it was kind of scary how they did it. Like they literally brought you into 2 different rooms. They separated the crowd of artists, and the one room went to the blinds, and the other one got sent home. So I'm just glad I was in the room I was in, because it led to just an awesome adventure. But yeah, it was so cool.
So you got to actually meet the judges then.
Yeah. So
and I saw that they didn't turn their chairs around, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But they did eventually when you were, exactly. That's their loss.
Yeah.
But when they did finally turn around to meet you, what kind of critiques and things did you hear from them? And what do you remember from each one?
Yeah, that's like one of the most interesting moments, because I had so much adrenaline going. And all I was like shaking there with my microphone. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I'm like, stop saying thank you. Stop. That's like all that was coming out of my mouth. It was like gratitude. I guess that's good. But, so it was Blake, Pharrell, Christina, and Maroon 5, Adam Levine.
Okay.
And it was funny when they all then at the end, they all turned their chairs. And the first thing I remember thinking, Christina is, she's glam on glam. She's like so beautiful, but she had so much makeup on, and in such an awesome way. Like it was so perfectly done, but she had so much glitter on her eyes. And all I could think of was like, look at your eyes. Like that's all I could think of when they turned. And then Adam Levine at that point, he had his hair bleached. So it was just like, it totally threw me off. Like I have these like beautifully like glammed eyes, and then like this like hair that's so that like honestly that was the first thing I thought of when they turned the at the end, which is so weird, I guess. But Pharrell, out of all of them, really I so appreciated his feedback, because it was very like specifically for what he heard. I mean, he dialed it down to, okay, this is what, I heard in the beginning. These are the vocal warm-ups I think that you should do to help gain control. And it was just like breath support. Like he was talking about all these things that I never went to a vocal coach before. Like I never did a vocal warm up until this like situation, till this experience. I just didn't know these things. I just kind of sang what I heard and what I liked. So I didn't really have any experience with this. So he started going into these things of just like how to build your range and everything. So after that, I went home and I mean, I did it religiously for a year, and now I do it like multiple times a week. But I saw such an improvement and such a difference in my voice and strength. I'm like, okay, Pharrell, like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, he seems legit, huh?
Yeah, it was really cool though.
Yeah. Now, did you sing a country song?
So it kind of stinks because they make it seem like you pick your own song, but you don't. So yeah, so they gave me Fight Song by
Rachel Platten.
Yes, thank you. I was gonna say Christina Perry. I'm like, that's not it. Rachel Platten, which is so inspirational. And I don't quite know why. I'm thinking maybe because it went along with like maybe my story or something. Because I'm like, I wonder why they chose that one. But so I wish that I could have done, you know, now looking back, I wish I could have been like, hey, can we switch this? Like, can we?
I mean, that's a good point. Like, are you allowed to give suggestions, or was it, did they literally just pick something for you and that's it? Like,
yeah. So like when the first process, so you're there for 3 weeks. And so right when you get there, they give you a list of songs, and then you get to like choose, I forget the top however many. And then you choose like your main one, but that one wasn't on my list. So I don't know kind of where it came from. And I thought about asking and being like, hey, but then rumors started going around with all the artists that, well, if you switch your song, you're going to get put to the back of the line. So I was so fearful of that. And I ended up being the first person on the first day of auditions. So I was like, they announce you the night before. They're like, okay, these are the people going on this day. And then you find out that next day, like what your order is. So I found out I was going the first day, and I like called my parents. I'm like, I just hope I'm not the first one. Like, I don't want to be the first one on the stage. And sure enough, there I am.
The luck.
Of course.
Well, and you know what? And that probably does put you in a bad spot with the judges too, because like what are the chances they're going to want to turn their chairs for the first voice they hear?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah. So it's kind of a bummer, because that is something that Adam Levine did say. He was like, I just want to hear like what else is coming. Like, I don't want to film my team yet. And like, that's kind of one of the things, because he was like, oh, there were so many moments, like I almost like hit it. And I'm like, don't tell me that.
Yeah.
You should have changed your song.
But you know, it was really cool. And I have to say though, I'm so glad I was just able to step on the stage, because there was 96 of us that were chosen for the blinds and were there for the 3 weeks and prepared. But only 76 got to audition because the teams filled up. So like my one friend, Chris Colston, who is an incredible artist now, you know, he was the next person to step on the stage. Yeah, was completely ready, and the teams filled up, and they were like, sorry.
Oh no.
So he's not even allowed to, like, they didn't even send him I auditioned, like there was, he couldn't even talk about that time. You know, so that kind of stunk for him.
Yeah,
but overall, the experience was like nothing I've ever experienced before. And, you know, for a while, like I wasn't allowed to say a lot of things, but now I think it's been 5 years, I'm allowed to say I didn't pick my own song.
I would think you're at that point now.
Who knows? I might get sued or something. Sorry.
I doubt it. I doubt it. What do you, is that still a song that you use in your set list at all to this day now, or no?
I don't. I like it. I have had people request it, not knowing, they didn't know that was my audition song. But I've had people request it just because that was such a popular song for a while. And I honestly had like bitter feelings towards it for a very long time.
I bet.
Yeah.
Excuse our ignorance on this question, but did you actually make it to television at all on that? Or?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. So that was another thing that was a bit of a bummer, is they were like, okay, you know, we're going to air all these people. And they said, but watch, you know, make sure you watch because you might be aired. And then we watched, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
but there's a
help our ratings,
girl,
but you're not going to be on. Don't worry about
yes, but it makes so much sense because I got my family, I got all my friends, like half the town of Palmyra was watching.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
of course.
No wonder the ratings are so high, right? But
yeah.
And then they're like, were you really out there on this show?
Yeah, I know. I was like, look at them making me look like a liar. I'm like, thank God I took a lot of pictures.
Yeah, right. Speaking of covers here real quick, there's another one I heard you did a cover of In the Air Tonight.
Yeah.
What kind of inspired that, you wanting to cover that? Where did that come from?
So that's a funny story. So I recorded that EP and all my other EPs except for the one I recorded here in Nashville. I recorded at the Green Room in Harrisburg with Derek. And I met him, actually, I was playing a party. It was like just a house party up in Palmyra. And there was a guy there and he went by Jimmy the Bug Man. And he literally is an exterminator. And he did like the work. I know this is so random. But he did the work for the Green Room, just like maintaining and like their greenery, flowers and all that stuff, like around the building. Right. So he had recording time because then he just exchanged recording time for his work. So that's like, he had all this hours and hours of recording time because he was also a musician, but he came up to me and I did that cover that night of In the Air Tonight. And he said, have you recorded any of your music? I'm like, no, I haven't, not at all. And so he said, I want to give you my recording time at the Green Room, but my only deal is you need to record the cover of In the Air Tonight that I heard tonight.
Get out.
Yeah. So I was like, deal.
Yeah.
I'll do it. So that's how that came about.
So that cover is all thanks to Jimmy the Bug Man.
Yeah, Jimmy the Bug Man.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, if you're looking to advertise here, just give us a call.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I tag him in this. He's a great guy.
Yeah, make sure you do that. Also too, I don't want to miss out on this as well, but you do talk about mental health and how it has played a role in your life. And one of the things you talk about is social anxiety, panic disorder, the self-ridiculing, the fear of failure and all that. Tell me how you are doing with controlling that, knowing the business that you're in. Let's face it, you're in a business where you're going to fail a lot along with your successes. So how do you handle all this?
Thanks for bringing that up, because that's definitely something that is very close to my heart. And I try to be as transparent as I can, because I think that there's a lot on social media, especially where we can put this persona up that like, everything's great, my life is incredible. And we're really internally, or what's actually going on is you're just feeling this inner turmoil. And so I try my best to be as transparent as I can now with that. And that kind of came up for me, just over time. I didn't realize what I was going through mentally and until it hit me. And then I was having panic attacks and I didn't know where it was coming from. I just got like swarmed with it. And I think it was confusing for me because I've always, from a young age, been like the positive, happy, smiling one. And I love that. And I love making people happy and I love spreading that. But then I realized that whenever that was all I was trying to do was live for, making other people happy, I wasn't focusing on what was going on inside. So then I, in turn, wasn't able to do what I was initially trying to do anyway.
Okay.
Because it wasn't authentically happening. And so unfortunately, there's been tragedies in my family due to mental health and the lack of care for it. And that's when I realized I really wanted to be open and just talk about it. Like we talk about our physical health. And I've been going to therapy now for years. And that is one of the most, the best decisions that I've made in my life to do that. And I first I thought it was a lot of weakness, not being able to handle it, you know, life and the challenges it brings. But I realized as I was sitting there that it takes a lot of strength to face yourself.
It does. And Howie, you always bring up a stat that I don't remember what it is now, but you say that at least 1 in every 3 people deal with some sort of.
One out of every 4 of us has a mental health diagnosis.
Wow.
So think about that. 1 out of every 4 in the United States has a mental health diagnosis. And I think the reason why we don't bring it up as much is because obviously the stigma that gets associated with, and I even heard you say it, you know, you felt weak. And a lot of that has to do with how people perceive mental health in general. And the fact that you're willing and able to talk about it, and the more you get known and get out there, the better off, you know, we'll be able to deal with things like this, because you're not afraid to address it. And that's awesome.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad. Like, this whole point of me, like, even doing music and why I feel driven is, you know, I know that God's putting me through experiences in my life for a reason. And I just feel like he's given me the gift of music for a reason. So I just feel like it would be doing a disservice if I don't honor the two. And, you know, hopefully people can feel not as alone, you know, through my experiences, if I can remain open.
Yeah. And I think a lot of musicians, comedians, actors, entertainers, a lot of them, the way they deal with their mental illnesses is by bringing it out in whatever platform they're in, whether it be songwriters or singers in their music, or comedians in their stand-up acts, or whatever it is. And I think it's how you'd probably know more about this. Well, obviously you will know more about this than I do, but it's almost a form of therapy just to get it out. Maybe it's not talking to somebody directly. Yes. And it's a way to kind of get it off your mind, get it off your chest, without maybe saying it directly, you know?
Yeah. And I think there's something too about just like belting it out. It's like you're able to like yell in a very constructive way while getting it all out, you know?
Yeah. So how do you deal with it specifically? Like, are there specific coping skills or things that you do on a daily basis that kind of address? And if I looked at it correctly, are you officially diagnosed with panic disorder, if you don't mind saying?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually, I didn't even know that was a thing. I just thought that I would get really anxious. I was like, I don't know. But then I'm like, you know, I'm not able to breathe. It's actually debilitating. And so I didn't know that until I was in therapy, you know, kind of recognizing what was going on.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So that's awesome. Like I said, it's great that you're able to address it, and not only that, but you acknowledge it. So, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you like, how do you cope with?
Yeah, I don't think I did touch on it. So I've tried a lot of different things, like so many different things. I probably there was like a tapping method. I don't know if you've heard of that or anything, but like I've tried so many things, but what has worked for me now over the years, I mean, I still on a daily basis struggle a lot with the anxiety part of things.
Sure.
And, you know, social anxiety is really interesting because I love connecting with people, and like there's this piece of me that absolutely loves it. And when I'm on stage, I'm like, this is awesome. But if I would go into a crowd of like if I have to go into the crowded bar or like walk through it, and then it's like, it's so weird. And I think that's why I struggled with really acknowledging that that's what was going on, was because I always like prided myself in being a people person. I'm like, yeah, I'm a people person. You know, I was a hairstylist. I love making people feel good, like all that stuff. But like I said, you know, when I didn't acknowledge what was actually going on, I wasn't able to do it anyway. So what I found now, though, you know, aside from acknowledging what was going on, is really taking the time each morning to meditate and pray. Like, I have a devotional. So I love the Calm app. It's amazing. So have you heard of it?
I have.
Yeah, we actually get it free through my work as well. So yeah.
What? Yep. That's amazing. Yep. I do. I love it. So like there's this one, like investigating anxiety, because like sometimes your body's just screaming out like, hey, listen to me. And so when you do, sometimes it feels good, but doing a lot of meditation, and I do a daily devotional. And then at the end of the day, I do a reflection on the Calm app and, the 3 things I'm grateful for, and just to kind of close out the day and try to stay grounded.
Okay.
But that's what's helped me a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being honest and open about that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so another way we can help her, though, is by going to cpmhof.com/awards.
That's right.
And by voting for her for Best Female Country Artist. Obviously, these are awards based in the central Pennsylvania area here. How did you get notified you were on that list, and how did you get on the list? How did you even get a chance to be nominated to begin with, I guess?
Yeah, I was so blown away. I woke up and I got like text messages from my friends. They're like, "Hey, did you see this came out?" And so what they did. So Brandon Valentine, he's part of actually Cold Spring Union. He's the drummer in their band, which they're an incredible band if you are looking for more musicians to talk to.
Okay.
But Brandon, he started the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame.
Oh.
And he is doing such incredible things. And he would be a great person, just to connect you with a lot of other musicians too. But so he, this Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame put out this thing a while ago saying, if you want to nominate any of your favorite local artists for a category or whatever, make sure you submit it to this. And so that was a little while ago. And I guess people had nominated me for these categories, which was such an honor.
That is awesome. Yeah. It's kind of weird because, when we put it out there that we were going to have you, I've actually had a few friends of mine message me. It's like, "Oh, I got to see her sing at this place or that place." And amazing. And I saw like on your Facebook page that you're mutual friends with a couple people. And one of those people is the ones that reached out to me. And she was like, "Yeah, I saw her at the Rising Sun."
Oh,
and,
that's so cool.
Yeah, they're definitely aware of you. And is your latest song that you put out there, "My Way Back Home," is that the latest?
So the latest one's actually "Body Will Break," but the one before that was "My Way Back Home." Yeah.
Okay. And I have a question about that one because, first of all, it's a great song. It sounds great. I love your voice in it.
Thank you.
But the bigger question I have for this is, whose 69 Dodge Charger is that?
Oh, yes. Oh, my Uncle George. He's going to love this. I'm going to make sure I send it to him.
Okay, good. Yep. Good.
We were talking. So in the beginning, there's that burnout, and I'm going to admit it. I didn't do the burnout.
Yeah, I watched it. I was like, "Oh, I like this car."
Right?
It's like, yeah. So awesome. Yeah, because I knew it had to be from someone local because I saw the PA tags on the back as it spinning off, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I need to ask you about this."
Yes.
And then
he loves his cars, man.
Oh, I bet he does. That's a nice one. So that's awesome.
So, well, since you brought it up, Howie, I love kind of peeking behind the curtain of the songwriting process and kind of what's going through your mind. And I love how you did that with Body Will Break. So let's kind of dive into it with My Way Back Home here as well. Where were you at? And where were you at and what kind of inspired this song for you?
So this song actually was never going to be recorded, to be honest, except for my husband was at the studio whenever I was recording with Mitch Dane at Sputnik Sound. He did my Your Heart of Gold EP. Okay. So we were only going to record 5 songs for that EP. And my husband was there when we were going through all the content that I had and deciding on what we wanted to do. And he said to Mitch, he's like, "You got to hear this one song." And I was like, "Dude, I don't like that song that much. Like, I feel like it wasn't like, I don't know, it just was cheesy or something." I can't remember the reasoning behind it, but I was like, "No, I don't want to do that song." And Mitch is like, "No, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Why not?" So Mitch goes, "All right, we're recording 6 songs. Just put it out as a single later."
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you didn't like about it. It's a very catchy song. I like it a lot.
Oh, thank you.
I love the video too. Yeah. I'm assuming all the pictures that you're hanging up on the wall are your family members.
Yes. So I wanted to make this because it's literally called My Way Back Home. Mm-hmm. So I was born and raised in Palmyra, Pennsylvania, but my extended family and my parents are from like the Altoona area, specifically like Crescent and Loretto. I don't know if you guys know.
I don't know that area, but I know Altoona.
Yeah, so it's up in the mountains, and that's where my extended family's from. And that was a place that really did contribute a lot to who I am now. And so I wanted to kind of honor every piece of the people and the place, like the places that made me who I am. And so that barn that those pictures are hung is actually my pap's barn, and where my dad grew up and worked on the farm with his dad. So yeah, and actually my pap has since passed, but the people that are renting the home, we know them, and they're like, yes, come, like, record this. And so they were so nice. And so it was just really cool. But the people that are on that barn are a lot of my family members. But we were talking before we started recording the show. My guitar teacher is actually brothers with Matt Creeder, who owns Creeder's Guitar Shop. His name was Steve Creeder. So that's who I took my lessons from. I probably took lessons from him maybe from 6th grade until my senior year of high school. So it was such an incredible mentorship that he really like gave me. And a little side note story that I love telling, because I want to give Steve all the praise. And unfortunately, my senior year, he passed away from some heart issues. So that was something that has also very much influenced me wanting to use my music to raise awareness and to help and make a difference. But I almost quit playing the guitar in 8th grade. And I said to him, I was playing basketball at the time, and I was doing all these sports, and I called him up. I remember I was crying on the phone. I'm like, I have to quit. I can't do all these things. I have practice this night. I have games. I said, I'm overwhelmed. I can't keep doing this. And he refused to let me quit. He's like, no, you're not quitting. He's like, absolutely not. So he met with me like on Wednesday nights. He'd finish taking lessons with everybody else, and then he'd go in, have dinner with his wife, and then he'd come back out at 8:30 and give me a guitar lesson.
Out.
Yeah, it was incredible. So without his kindness, I wouldn't be here.
Didn't he had his own band at one point, right? Didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Steve Creeder band or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
All around locally. They're so good. Like, he's an incredible, like, mind-blowing. And so is his brother, Matt. Like, so good. Which, speaking of, if we can just give a shout out to everyone,
absolutely.
The Creeder's Guitar Shop is up for a CPMA for best music or instrument shop.
Yeah, best. Most.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't. And they're still at the same old spot in Jonestown, PA, right there, right on the square of Jonestown.
Yeah.
There.
By the way, you can go into that shop and you will see a picture of my son when he was 4 years old. He was the youngest person to ever take lessons at Creeder's.
No way.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah. He learned to read music before he could read
a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still can't read music.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And it all has to do with that shop, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
they're really good people.
Yeah, they are very good people.
So
everybody go vote for them.
Yes. And you, of course.
Oh, thanks.
Well. Our friend Nick Knight is on there as well. Go vote for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's just wrap things up here with you then. Just go over your stuff here again. Olivia Farabaugh Official on Instagram, Olivia Farabaugh on TikTok, Farabaugh Music on Twitter. Obviously, just search for her on YouTube and Facebook and find all her stuff there. And the website is oliviafarabaugh.com. I think that's kind of everything we wanted to touch on at this point. Howie, anything else you got?
Yeah, I'm just so happy to see, you're moving in the direction you're going, and really best wishes down there in Nashville. Are you living outside of Nashville, or actually, I know you said on a farm basically, but is it outside of Nashville or?
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if you've heard of like the Mount Juliet area.
Yeah.
So we're like 30 minutes from the city. So we're kind of just tucked outside.
Okay.
which it's kind of nice because we get away from the hustle and bustle and like the
Sure.
crazy city life. We know we're not city slickers, so it was really nice to be able to have this
Yeah.
farm and in this area.
That's awesome.
But-
Yeah. So yeah, definitely best wishes out there.
Yeah.
Thank you
one
so
more-
much. I just want to thank you guys again for having me on here, but just your guys' positivity and your vibe and just what you're doing for music and musicians, and we just so appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to tell you one more thing. But by Howie putting you in touch with Taylor Marie Wagner, who made one of my dreams come true, I said, there's got to be a time and point in our show when we get together with some of our musician friends that we meet on here that they collaborate on something. So I'm hoping
yes.
I'm hoping everything works out great with you and Taylor writing something. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely
you.
make sure you bring up about her love for the Lancaster area and Arkansas.
I definitely will. I know we're going to have a lot to talk about over coffee now if we talk about Amish.
Oh,
Amish life.
yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, Olivia Farabaugh, thank you for joining us. Go to our website, oliviafarabaugh.com. And that's all I have. Hit up her latest singles.
Thank
We'll be
you.
adding some of her music to our Spotify list as well. I always put a Spotify list out of some of our artists that we talk to. So I'll add some of your songs to that as well. So
Thank you so much.
that's all I have. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We hope to chat with you again soon.
Yes, that would be awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much.
Not a